UPod Street is an official affiliate of Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com/UPodStreet, and 10% of your order will go directly to supporting the pod. Use code UPodStreet at checkout, and you'll get 10% taken off your order. Now sit back, relax, and keep that beer cold, because it's on to UPod Street. What is up, Birdland? I am some guy that needs to take a nap before some more West Coast baseball, Jimmy Horn. And joining me, as always, is the brunette Thor himself, Jack Bain. Jack, how you doing on this fine Labor Day Monday?
Good. I celebrated the holiday with a little golf. My first time playing in quite a while. But it was like a little tournament, and my team got tied for second place. So
that's not bad. Did you win anything from that?
$15.
Hey, you know what? That's $15 you didn't have before the start of the round.
Yeah, man. Pretty happy with it. Shot a 105. Not good.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I don't know. Didn't feel
for someone that doesn't golf that often. That's not that bad.
Yeah, that's true. So you just got back from the beach?
I did. I spent my Labor Day in about 4.5 hours of traffic with everybody else that was leaving the beach.
I was gonna say,
it honestly though, it really wasn't that bad because it takes like 2 hours and 45 minutes, 3 hours to get to and from Ocean City from here anyways. So, we kind of we went into it doing Labor Day weekend because we wanted an extra day since, can use holiday leave and all that stuff. So we just kind of accepted, like, you know what, in order to get an extra day at the beach, we're going to have to deal with one day of traffic. And you know what? I would do it all again.
Good for you, man. I also down the ocean. A lot of traffic, so.
Here's my biggest beef with the traffic, though. This is my biggest beef, okay? Well, I'm going to say this, and then we're going to move on to the show. If you are in a situation where there's a lot of traffic, and you decide to get in the other lane and drive all the way down, where you're eventually going to have to merge in anyways, or even worse, you decide to drive on the shoulder to force your way further down the road, you are part of the problem. You are the worst kind of person, okay? I saw so many people doing that today. I'm like, you realize this line would move a lot faster for all of us if people stopped doing that.
Yeah.
And those of us who are lawfully, respectfully waiting our turn in traffic are getting screwed over by those people that are deciding to speed down and force their way in.
Just life in the Big Apple, man.
I don't know about the Big Apple, but it's just, I guess it's just
the Bay
life.
Bridge.
Yeah. Well, Jack, this is sort of a pre-game show for us because I think this is the first time we've done a show before a game occurs.
Yeah. I mean, the O's really aren't playing a game on the West Coast on a Sunday that isn't, like a travel day. So we either get it during the pod or right before right before. But the Monday, man, gives us a little night game.
Because a lot of times when we've done it on a Monday, it ends up being during a game. So we kind of do like a live show during the game. But right now we're kind of the pre-show. So
pre-game.
If people are tuning in, getting ready for the O's, because they come on in like an hour and a half or so. Welcome. Yeah. I hope you enjoy this. I hope this wakes you up. Take some caffeine while you watch us so you can be prepared to stay up for the game tonight. But we're going to go ahead and roll into it. Jack, how about you give us your notes from around the league?
Yeah, so September 1 happened last week, and that means that the rosters have expanded. So you see a lot of younger stars getting called up around the league, most notably in the Big Apple. Jason Dominguez and Austin Wells were called up to the New York Yankees, two very exciting prospects in that org. Jason Dominguez, I think, is like 21. He's been in the system since he was like 17 or 18 years old. So it seems like he's been a prospect forever, but he's really not that old. Austin Wells also a catching prospect for the Yankees. We don't have any more games against the Yankees, right? One more set?
No, we are done against the Yankees
Okay.
this year.
So we won't get to see them, which is fine. Along with the Yankees calling up some young guys, the struggling Mets also called up Ronnie Mauricio, who has been been in the system since he was 17, but just now is getting called up. And yeah, I mean, there was a ton of other ones all across the league. Honestly,
I don't
too
know why
many.
the Mets are calling anyone up, because currently DJ Stewart is on his Linsanity run. So,
Dude, DJ Stewart, known OPSer above 900.
hey, he had that walk-off hit by pitch the other day.
Yeah, dude, electric stuff. He had a good game when I was there, so I was happy about that.
Yeah, he's on his biannual Linsanity run. Doesn't go on for another about week, and then not so good anymore.
Yeah.
Until another now.
Yeah. Ronald Acuna Jr. Is the first person in Major League history to hit 30 bombs and steal 60 bags in a single season. Obviously, the harder part of that is the 60 stolen bases. And to be able to have home run power while you're doing it's even better. And yeah, put his name in the history book. He's having a really good season now in the MVP race. Speaking of MVP races, really heated up this weekend when the Braves took a visit to Dodger Stadium. The three front runners for MVP and Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Acuna Jr. were all putting on shows, man. I was able to watch Saturday night's game. And it was just kind of crazy, like the back and forth between Acuna and mainly Betts. I mean, like Freeman was still hitting, pretty much every at bat that he had, but it was kind of crazy to see like Betts and Acuna just kind of trade off bombs or like game saving plays. I think that I don't remember how they finished yesterday, but I think that the Dodgers were able to take 2 of 3. I'm gonna check that.
But you had that bomb from Acuna. Didn't he hit like a ball that was like a 121 off the bat or something?
Oh my god, yeah, it was like 121-4.
It's absurd. What did you
nuts.
think? Speaking of Acuna, didn't wasn't last week when that incident happened? He was in Colorado, and those fans
dude.
like ran out on the field and like tried to it looked like the first fan was trying to hug him and get a selfie, and the security came and tackled that guy. But as they were tackling that guy, a second guy came running in, and he tried to grab a hold of Acuna, and they tackled him. And when they tackled him, it sort of knocked Acuna over, which is kind of scary.
Yeah,
and then there was a third guy. I didn't realize this. I saw another view of it. There was a third guy that jumped on the field. So all that those guys got tackled, and he jumped back into the stands and started trying to run away.
Yeah, dude. It's kind of nuts. That is scary though. Like once like people start approaching like big superstar players like that, it's like, what are we doing?
Well, it's kind of one of those too. You sit there and go like, because like all it takes is one freak thing for one of those security guards to tackle someone the wrong way. They land on his ankle or something, and suddenly, who I think is probably the NL MVP, is now done for the rest of the season, done for the postseason, that sort of thing. Let's not be stupid, people. If you're gonna jump onto the field, which is already a risky thing, but people do it.
It's a $500.
Leave the players alone. Leave the players alone. Do your thing. Get the attention you want. Get tackled. Get a lifetime ban. But leave the players alone.
Yeah, it's not worth a lifetime ban at all. But yeah, keeping on the Dodgers news. This was the headline from today, broken by Jeff Passan. Julio Urias was arrested and charged with a domestic violence dispute. That was around, I think, 2:00 today. That came out.
It happened at I think they said that it happened at 4:00 in the morning. He was arrested or something like that.
Yeah, not good at all.
Get him out of here.
I mean, this is a big blow for the Dodgers. Like, kind of answering this question that Brady just put up. This is a big blow for the Dodgers, like in the way that it's going to affect the clubhouse. I think on the field product that Julio Urias was giving them this year was really, it wasn't spectacular. It wasn't third in Cy Young voting from last year. level, and I think he was kind of like, hurting the Dodgers more than not. He was kind of filling a cog, like in a spot that could be filled by a younger guy. Give him a shot. But yeah, I mean, you think about how this would affect the clubhouse.
Sorry, I hit the wrong mute. I was trying to mute myself, and I muted you. Just
Me.
like, don't care what Jack has to say. Don't finish that thought. No. Finish your thought.
Yeah, just like what in the clubhouse. I mean, you look at the Rays, for example, and they've kind of overcame kind of that vibe that comes in the clubhouse when something really awful happens like this. So I would assume that it wouldn't be great in the Dodger clubhouse, but I mean, we'll see how they do in the next couple days.
No, it's one of those. I think the Rays is the perfect example to look at right now, with everything that happened with Wander Franco, which I'm not going to sit here and compare one of the things versus the other thing. They're both awful. I would say the difference is Wander Franco was probably producing more for the Rays than Urias was for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And so if the Rays were able to overcome that loss, especially that type of loss that the Dodgers are dealing with now, I would say the Dodgers are probably going to be fine moving forward. I mean, we'll see what happens. That can do a lot to the psyche of your team.
Yeah.
Brings a lot of negative attention to your team that can be really distracting. But I don't know. I think the Dodgers are going to move forward. I think with a lot of this also too, if a guy's not a good person, the clubhouse already knows that. Like the players already know that.
Yeah.
And so like sometimes losing a guy who doesn't have a good track record might bolster the team because they're like, oh, this sort of issue in the machine of everything is now gone, and now we're good to go to keep moving forward.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, man, it's just come on. Like, what are we doing? I mean, that's all I have to say on it, but just come on. In better news, the Reds have been really, really banged up over the past couple weeks and kind of look like they were out at one point over the last 2 weeks. And regardless of, star players being out, they've been able to keep pace in that NL wild card race. They're currently tied with the D-backs for that third spot. In the wild card, they are looking up at the Phillies and the Cubs. Just wanted to make sure that the Phillies have also been very, very hot past 2 weeks, 3 weeks, really. Honestly, since the All-Star break ended. But they've been playing really good baseball. And they're in the first wild card spot by 5 games. And same thing with the Cubs. We talked about it last week. The Cubbies were hot, and they stayed hot. They are 3 games above the Diamondbacks and Reds. However, the Diamondbacks do hold that tiebreaker in that wild card. Just switching over to the AL, kind of where we were last Sunday. Tampa Bay still holding that one wild card spot, followed by Houston and Texas, and Seattle has, kind of taken first place there in the AL West. They
not only taken first place, but also taken spot number 2 in the American League.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they wouldn't be in that wild card spot because the Rays have a 6-game better record than they do.
Right.
They're going for the wild card. So,
but when you're looking at seeding, they'd have spot number 2. They'd have a first round bye.
Good for them, man. I mean, they're exciting to watch for sure. So I'm glad to see that there's some success there. And don't look now. The Cubs are 3 games out of first place. Just keep that in the back pocket. Braves secured their 90th win on Sunday. Correction, the Braves did win that series in Los Angeles. My apologies. So that Sunday day victory pushed them to 90-46 with like 20 games left to play. Nuts.
That's wild. What do you think, staying in the AL here real quick, because this is what I think was the other big news this week. What do you think of the Angels suddenly putting all of their players on waivers pretty much?
Yeah, so the Angels on last Tuesday, they put a quarter of their roster on waivers. Guys that they bought at the deadline. Guys
Yeah,
like
it was
look,
almost like everyone that they bought at the deadline, they something like, okay,
pretty
we don't want
much.
them anymore.
Guys they got at the deadline. Lucas Giolito was put on waivers. Ronaldo Lopez also in that same deal put on waivers, and Randall Grichuk was put on waivers as well. Hunter Renfroe was also put on waivers. He was already on the team, but still, this was a big salary dump for anybody that might not be familiar with the way that putting players on waivers works. The Angels will save $9 million in salary by putting these guys on waivers. So the teams that pick them up will finish out the duration of the contract that they had for this year. I know that Giolito and Lopez and Moore, I believe, went to the Cleveland Guardians, and I know the Reds picked up Hunter Renfroe. Randall Grichuk stayed with the Angels, ended up getting back onto the team, cleared waivers. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, man.
It was wild when it happened too, because the thing is with waivers, for anyone that doesn't know, basically when waivers happen, the order of teams that can like pick up someone on waivers goes from like the worst record all the way up to like the best record.
It's like draft picks.
Yeah, it's like draft picks, and obviously teams with worse records this time at this point in the season are probably not picking up those guys because their season's already done. Why would they want to pick them up? So it gets interesting when you start getting closer to the top of teams that are on the bubble or already in playoff contention and want to solidify something on the roster. And I know a lot of people, especially Orioles fans, were really mad when they saw this, because to have all these guys suddenly available on waivers, knowing none of them are probably going to get up to where Baltimore is or anything like
Yeah.
that. I didn't look at them close enough to even say, like, can we use any of these guys? Like, it just wasn't.
They would have had to fall to literally waiver number 29.
Yeah, like it just wasn't going to happen. And people were mad because they're like, this late in the season, a player dump like this can really alter the course of the last month of the season. I saw a lot of people pointing out there, like, fantasy leagues have rules against this.
Right.
like how can you just at the end of the month just go, you know what? Everyone goes on waivers. You all do with them what you want. Who cares? Like it really was wild, and I was annoyed by it too. I mean, I wasn't like going crazy over it, but I was a little like, yeah, what if like suddenly Tampa Bay were to pick up someone that helps them get a little juice that then drives them over the Orioles? Like it just didn't. I don't understand how you can literally put a quarter of your roster onto waivers with a month left to go, and how
Yeah.
there's not some sort of rule against that.
Because you got to think like a lot of these teams that are out of contention, why would they want to pick up a guy's contract for them just to not make the playoffs? Like they're playing this guy just to not make it. And, obviously they're going to fall to teams that have more of a shot. The Guardians, who are only 5 games out of the division behind Minnesota, like this might be that push that they need.
Yeah,
Granted,
if
they're
I'm
not.
Minnesota right now, I'm pissed.
Yeah, I mean, you think about what the Guardians had already, like they plugged in a lot of like things that were needed. I mean, they got more pitching to surround an already young dominant core. I think more of their issues was in the back end of the bullpen before Class A. So I mean, you look at this roster now. I mean, like, don't count out the Guardians, man.
Yeah, it was a really weird situation that happened. Doesn't seem like it should be okay. And really just kind of it's I guess it was the final sign of the Angels waving the white flag. They went all in at the trade deadline to try and get, that Ohtani Trout playoff run. Ohtani has since been taken off the pitching because of his UCL injury. He is still hitting. Mike Trout came back for a day and then immediately went back to the IL. Even before all that, the Angels were not winning at all. and just seemed like the Angels are now just dead in the water, don't know what to do. And so they're like, well, just get rid of all these guys. Let's save ourselves $9 million because, well, we're not going to win it now.
Right. And then, Harrison Bader on the Yankees was put on waivers as well, and he was picked up by the Reds too. So now the Reds have this stacked up outfield that could propel them closer to the division or wild card. I mean, they're tied for a wild card spot right now. The Cubs are probably pissed that they were able to pick up Renfroe and Bader.
Yeah. So, it's just weird.
Yeah, and this is the first year that it's been big names going on waivers.
Yeah, usually when you get to the waiver deadline and stuff, you're just sort of like, yeah, okay, sure, whoever that is. It's not really a big deal. I can't think of another time where I've seen this many guys go on to the waiver
because you
deadline.
Yeah, this is a pretty unprecedented thing.
And you have to think, I'm going to be really curious what happens in that AL Central race. Because if that ends up being something that affects it to the point where, suddenly you see Cleveland win the AL Central over Minnesota, you have to think that during the winter meetings, you have to think that GMs are going to go to Manfred and say, look, we can't just be dumping players at the waiver deadline and completely alter the spectrum of the playoff outlook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's weird. Do you have any other notes for us from around the league, Jack?
I'm sure there's stuff I missed, but that's all I got for right now.
Well, let's go ahead and get into what happened in Orioles baseball this past week. Going all the way back to last Monday when we all spoke with you last. We were in the middle of watching that game against the Chicago White Sox, which turned out to be exactly what we wanted when playing against the Chicago White Sox. First of all, you had Grayson Rodriguez pitching, and he did phenomenal. 6 innings pitched, 1 hit, no runs, 1 walk, 6 Ks. On one hand, you can sit there and say, well, this is the White Sox after all. But at the same time, beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And Grayson did exactly what we wanted him to do. Great outing. You have the offense waking up in this one. Anytime you score 9 runs, it's awesome. Santander had his 25th home run of the season. You also had, Ryan McKenna, who has awoken a little bit since coming back onto the roster. He had an RBI, as did Mountcastle, Hearn. It was a really good show from the Ryans. Orioles went on to win 9-0. Any thoughts on the 9-0 win, Jack?
This was, one of the times that DL Hall started pitching again, and he looked great.
That's right.
Yeah, he's pretty much looked good all week. Yeah, beat an inferior team. It's pretty much the bottom line here.
100%. And then we go into game 2. Now, I was at game 2, Jack.
Okay.
In this one, we had Dean Kremer on the mound. Dean Kremer had another good outing. 6 innings pitched, 6 hits, 1 run, no walks, 5 Ks. It was looking a little iffy there for a good chunk of the game. For a little bit, Orioles did end up tying it, and you were kind of sitting there going oh no, is this going to go to extras? What's going on here? My dad and I surprised my dad, by the way, with tickets. We got front row tickets on the left field wall.
Nice.
First time he had ever sat on the wall. So I was getting really worried here because I was like, oh man, I made a big deal to him. Hey, we're going to be front row on the left field wall. And there was nothing coming out there. Not a single thing, not even a pop fly out there. It was dead out there.
Yeah.
And then the Orioles weren't scoring either. I was like, oh man, this blows for a surprise for my dad. But luckily, come the 7th inning, we got a 3-run bases clearing double from Anthony Santander. Who is hotter right now? There's also a 5-run 8th inning where just suddenly the Orioles couldn't seem to miss the ball, which was awesome. There was also in the 8th inning a inning-ending fly out to left field that Austin Hayes made a great catch against the wall.
Mhm.
Jumped up, caught it, landed against the wall. Happened right below us.
Nice.
Right below us. So you know what? The tickets ended up paying out because we got one play that happened right there. So that was pretty cool. Shout out Austin Hayes.
There you go.
Orioles went on to win that 9-3.
Dean Kramer looked pretty good. The whole
Dean
pitching
looked great.
staff.
I mean, the thing that was frustrating is I don't know that I don't think he ended up getting the win. He might have gotten the win.
He did not.
I was really worried for him because I was like, he's pitched great, and the Orioles offense was just doing nothing for him until they could finally get to that White Sox bullpen.
No, he did not get the win. Danny Coulomb got the win, who honestly pitched an inning and 2/3 shutout, no hit. And he got the win, and I think he kind of deserves it, man. Like, it was a pitcher's duel, like all the way up until Kramer came out. So,
yeah, I'm not going to complain about Coulomb getting it. Dean pitched pretty well. I was hoping he was going to get it.
Yeah, I hear you. Outside of that one home run to Lenyn Sosa, he pitched really well. Luis Robert also had a crazy series against the Orioles this time around.
Yeah, he's got something against the orange and black, man. First, he knocks Adley Rutschman out of the home run derby.
Yeah, dude.
And then he comes into Baltimore and goes off. I don't know, like, what an Oriole bird did to him in his life, but
yeah, seriously,
he doesn't like it.
No doubt. Fuji, not great in his 9th inning appearance. I don't see, going off of what I said last week, I don't think it matters whether Fuji's in low or high stress situations. He's either on or he's not.
Yeah, it just, and I don't think he had a day off before this. I think that was his second day in a row.
Yeah.
I think he and Cano are kind of similar in that sense, where it's like they can be on, but they can't be on 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
So just like they really need that one day of rest, it seems like to me. I don't know if that's a mental thing. I don't know if that's a physical thing, but it just seems to me like they can only do 1 day at a time. They can't do 2 days in a row.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Going on, I was at this game. I was at
You were at this game? Oh, I'm so sorry.
It was really fun for like the first inning.
Yeah.
And then the wheels kind of fell off. What if I told you that in 2023, Dylan Cease would be starting against Kyle Gibson? And what if I told you that both pitchers would get blown up?
Dude, I'm telling you, like, so when I'm working and there's a game going on, I usually like turn on like my MLB app to the radio so I can listen while I work. And when I heard the first inning, 4-run first inning for the Orioles, I was like, oh, thank God. Like, can kind of tune out, get more of my work done. Don't have to worry about it. Orioles are going to get this sweep. And then the second inning happened.
Yeah.
And then the third inning happened.
A lot of home runs.
And then the fourth inning happened.
A lot of home runs from the old White Sox. Gibson let up 3 across his 4 1/3. All of his runs came in the second and third inning. And I think it was on the 3 home runs. 2 of them were solos. 1 was a 2-run. But I mean, I think Oscar Colas had a home run, and I think that was just kind of like, all right, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And then Andrew Vaughn hit 1. And then Luis Robert hit 1. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Gibson ended up going 4 1/3. He gave up 9 hits, 7 runs.
Yeah.
Anytime you give up 7 runs, certified not a good day.
Yeah, and it sucks because Cease let up 5 across 6 innings. That, like, whenever Cease lets up that much, you've done good.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, you're facing off a guy that was a Cy Young contender last year.
Second place.
Yeah, and you put up 5 runs against him. You need to hold that lead, especially when it's a team that is completely out of it, like the White Sox are. You gotta hold on to that. Gibson just didn't have it. Seems like Gibson is either going 8 innings strong or he's going less than 5 and getting blown up these days.
Yeah. So after this Gibson start, this is when people kind of got the gears moving on the fact that Gibson might not be good enough to start a playoff game for the Orioles.
There was a big debate on Orioles Twitter.
Yeah.
Big debate
ALDS
going
game
on.
3.
Yeah, I mean, I think Connor Newcomb of Locked On Orioles, he was saying he'd still give Gibson a rotation in the playoffs, and people were not happy about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what do you think? Who gets the ball in game 3 of the ALDS?
I think because who do you have? Who do you have the first 2 games?
Grayson and Bradish.
Grayson, Bradish?
Yeah, in either order.
Right now, I'd say Dean.
Yeah.
But maybe you don't let Dean go more than like 4 innings.
Mm-hmm.
Because behind him, you can have Irvin, Flaherty, or Gibson.
Yeah.
And really, with any of these starts, you have that. I mean, why not do, depending on how it's going, you have the potential for all 3 of those guys that we mentioned as starters to go 4 innings and pitch really, really well. And then you have those 3 guys go another 4 innings. Plus, John Means is coming back in some capacity. I don't know what capacity it's going to be. It seems like the Orioles are stretching him out a bit. I don't know. But John Means is coming back in some capacity. I'm not super worried about the starters of the playoff games, because I believe if you give those 3 guys, which the concern with Grayson, Dean, and Bradish is that they are young. They haven't pitched in the postseason before, but I believe you can get at least 3 or 4 really good innings out of them and then turn it over to someone else who's been a good starter and get 3 or 4 good innings out of them. Like, I'm not super worried about the starting rotation for the postseason because I think it's going to be fine.
Yeah, I got you. I think, obviously, I don't think that Gibson should be our game 3 starter. But the only reason that I feel that my opinion could be swayed a little bit is that Gibson pitched in the World Series last year.
That's true.
And he pitched in the NLCS. He pitched in he only pitched in the NLCS and the World Series. And granted, he only threw an inning in one in both series, but he was on the roster. He was there, and when he was on the field, he came out in a reliever role, inning shutout, inning and a third shutout.
I mean, anything's possible. We'll see. That is a problem for a month from now. And a lot can happen in that month. A lot can happen in that month.
We'll see what September brings.
I'm just glad we're having a debate of who's going to be.
Yeah, right. It's a good thing that we have to talk about that.
Seriously, let's not attack each other over our takes over who's going to start in the postseason. Let's just be glad that we can talk about who's going to pitch in the postseason. We haven't had that in a long time.
Yeah. Off day Thursday.
Traveled out to Arizona to face the Snakes.
Coming into this series, man, I was kind of scared, to be honest.
Oh yeah, because the Snakes, who right after the trade, right after the All-Star break, had kind of dipped down a good bit, and I was like, okay, all right, this might mean some easier games for the Orioles. They were suddenly picking it back up.
Yeah, I mean, they were picking it up the whole time, kind of going into this game, or the whole week before, excuse me. And that really didn't falter at all coming into the first game of the series on Friday night. It was Zach Davies versus Cole Irvin. Zach Davies, former Oriole. And he looked very, very good against the Orioles in this one. Ended up going 6 innings, 1 earned run across, and scattered 6 across those 6 innings. Cole Irvin, on the other hand, long ball kind of got to him. 5 2/3, 8 hits, 4 runs. Yeah, and those home runs weren't short either.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this for Cole Irvin. It's not his worst outing. I think
No,
when the Orioles went to the
guess
6-man
not.
rotation and Irvin was going to get back into the rotation, I think this was I don't want to say this was expected. I just think it's not surprising that this is happening to him maybe like once every 3 starts or once every other start.
Yeah.
4 runs is still within reach though. Like that's the thing. He didn't get blown out, right? He didn't give up 7 runs.
Yeah.
And I mean, like the thing is, you did have the Orioles put up 2 runs. I believe before his outing was done. So the game was within reach, and that's with Cole Irvin. Like that's all you can really ask of him is when he leaves, is the game within reach? And the offense never really showed up.
Yeah, outside of that first and 8th inning, nothing.
Yeah. You did have a good outing from Crable, Fuji, and Perez, which was nice to see. After everybody really freaked out about our bullpen, it's good to see the bullpen do well.
Yeah.
What about this though? This was the biggest thing. The Orioles lose that game 4-2, but the only thing anyone talked about the entire next day was that play by Gunnar Henderson where he made a basket catch and then turned around and threw out, was it Corbin Carroll
It
at home?
was. Yeah.
So a possible rookie of the year for the American League making a ridiculous catch, turn, and throw double play against the possible, if not probable, rookie of the year from the National League.
Where his sprint speed made it up to 31.1 miles an hour going home.
Oh my God.
That
That
was in a
possible?
tweet. Yeah, I guess so. It was in a tweet, and I cannot remember who tweeted it out, but sorry.
But all in all, ridiculously good play. Add it to the file listed reasons why Gunnar Henderson should be rookie of the year.
Yeah.
Game 2. Orioles come into this with Kyle Bradish on the mound. Let me say this, Jack. I was out at a bar down in the ocean for this one when it came on. There was a woman in the bar I was in who got really mad that the Orioles were suddenly on all the TVs. And she was like, really on all the TVs? The Orioles aren't even good. And then she stormed out of the bar. She was mad enough she left.
Wow.
She stormed out of the bar and left. And I was like, what? First of all, the Orioles aren't even good. You don't know ball. Second of all, you're in Maryland. People
Right.
want to see the Orioles play. When Adley Rutschman hit a home run in this, I was at another bar. The entire bar erupted in cheers.
Yeah, man.
All right?
That's how it
You're
should
in
be.
Maryland. People want to see the Orioles play. All right? But all in all, getting into the game itself, Kyle Bradish came in, got roughed up a little bit. 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, 6 Ks. And the Orioles offense looked a little rough up until the 4th inning when all of a sudden they put up a 6 spot in the 4th inning. Seemed like everything started to click with a Cedric Mullins 3-run home run, which
Yes, sir.
really nice to see because Cedric Mullins has still looked a little rough coming off the IL. So maybe this will start to click, start to heat him up a good bit. And like I said, Adley Rutschman had a solo shot in the 7th. Orioles went on to win 7-3.
I think just to harp on the DL Hall thing, man, he looked really, really good in this outing. Outside of the one walk, which was just it was a couple tough calls in a row from the umpire, but he went 1 1/3 with 3 Ks. Yeah, I think this is what we've been hoping that DL Hall would turn into like last year, right?
This is my question for you, Jack, because we talked about it a little bit. DL Hall as a reliever in both of his MLB stints has looked really good.
He's got a
I
2.35.
really like how DL Hall looks as a reliever. He says he still wants to be a starter. The Orioles say they still want him to be a starter. They tried to stretch him out in spring training this year to get him up to being a starter. Didn't work out. Had to go to FCL to do some strength training, all
Yeah.
that stuff. Came back as a reliever, and he looks great. And I'm scared. Like, do we want to mess with a good thing? Because who's not to say that DL Hall as a starter is okay, but DL Hall as a reliever is awesome.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah, I
prefer the
mean,
awesome, personally.
yeah, I prefer the 1 inning outings, 1 1/3, 1 2/3, whatever, of 1 hit, no hit baseball. Like if you can be that consistent, because like he's been tried a starter, he was bad and got hurt with the bullpen, still got hurt, but has been better out of the bullpen. And I think that the fact that he is so injury prone should kind of keep him in the bullpen, right? Kind of limit his innings,
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
him healthier
You don't
longer.
want to jump up his pitch counts and everything with
Right,
something. He might throw his back out again or something like that.
right.
No, I'm on the same page with you. I want to keep DL Hall in the bullpen. I don't know that DL Hall wants to hear that.
Yeah,
But I think he's electric in the bullpen. I really do.
yeah, no doubt.
And for a team that was for a good chunk of the season kind of struggling with that middle relief role, that setup role,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the possible closer being out for the rest of the season, we need more solid guys in the bullpen. It's obviously no question he's going to be in the bullpen for the rest of the year. What does that mean for 2024? Who knows? But I'm glad he's here now because he has been a really solid piece added to that bullpen.
Yeah, for sure. And then on to game 3, the old Jack Flaherty versus Zach Gallen Sunday matinee matchup. I thought this one was kind of lost before either team stepped on the field because of what the pitching matchup was. And then I'll Cy Young candidate against Jack Flaherty. But Zach Gallen did not look very sharp. Neither did Flaherty, but that was okay because Gallen ended up letting up more runs than Flaherty did. And then that gave way to a bullpen that outside of an untimely, Yennier Cano allowed home run, it was good.
Yeah. Jack Flaherty, unfortunately for him, the viral thing that kind of came out of this was when he got taken out. It looked like he was really upset. People were questioning if there's an attitude problem with Flaherty. I don't know about that. I think guy just wants to compete and was in a bit of a jam, wanted to try and see it through, got pulled, wasn't happy about it. Is what it is.
Dude, I don't think that that's an attitude thing. I think that that's a competitor thing. Like he wanted to
Yeah.
compete so, but like you just said, like he wanted to compete really bad, and his stuff was pretty good. Like he struck out 7 guys. It was just a couple pitches that got away from him. And yeah, like you said, came into that jam in the 5th and wanted to get through it, have the opportunity for a win, and just got caught up in the moment a little bit.
I think too for Hyde's looking at the schedule a little bit because when you're playing the Diamondbacks right now, you're effectively playing playoff baseball.
Yeah.
Diamondbacks could be in the playoffs, so they're a playoff caliber team, and you're looking at that saying you're in a jam. This is what the score is. Okay, like I'm going to pull you. I'm going to go to the bullpen, knowing that starting tonight. You're going and you're playing the Angels, who, as we talked about at the top of the show, have effectively given up on the season. So, do you want to go ahead and use your bullpen for this playoff caliber game that you're playing and try and get that extra W? Or do you want to reserve your bullpen to go and play the Angels, who have effectively already given up on the season? I think Hyde was smart and said, "Hey, I'm going to go use my bullpen, shore up this win. I think I can still get a win against the Angels tomorrow if I don't have a fully rested bullpen."
Yeah, and I mean Flaherty was also at 85 pitches, and even know that he's more of a vet and should be able to get through that 5th inning and keep the team in front. Like he's been hurt a lot, and I think they're also trying to manage pitch count expectations a little bit for him. So yeah, and on top of what you said, it was a good move.
So Orioles went on to win this 8-5. I believe we are now, is it 2.5 games over Tampa Bay, Jack? Is that where we're at?
Yes, sir.
2.5 games. This late in the season, Really awesome. Wish we could have gained some more ground, but they're playing good baseball over in Tampa Bay.
Oh, it's 3 games. Excuse me.
Oh, we're up to 3 games. All right.
The
Well,
Rays
that's
lost
something.
today.
Ooh, excellent. Excellent. So it could be 3.5 by the end of the night, theoretically.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Um,
In a game that Shohei Ohtani was scratched from.
Oh, Otani's been scratched.
Per Rock Kubakta.
Wow. That's big news.
Mm-hmm.
Some news that happened in this game 3, by the way, that leads us into the next bit that we have in our notes, Jack. Speaking of waiver wires, the Miami Marlins put Jorge Lopez onto waivers. And who should pick him up but the Baltimore Orioles? Jack, I in honor of this, I am wearing my Jorge Lopez All-Star Game jersey.
There you go.
That I got for free in a mini mystery box.
Free.
But free. Yeah, I bought the mystery box, and
free.
This was it. This was in the mystery box because by then he was already traded. He was already gone.
Right.
So again, this is the only All-Star jersey that I have, and I got it in a mystery box. That's why.
Now he just doesn't have the right number.
Yeah, because this is 48. I think he's like 73 now or something like that. But to recap this a little bit, and Jack, if you want to get into the numbers of Jorge Lopez this year, I'm going to let you. I know he's on a down year compared to the year before. That's fine. I just want to go through what occurred here a little bit and what I think is possibly the most Mike Elias masterclass move of all time. Because Jorge Lopez last year was traded to the Twins. And in that trade, the Orioles got 4 pitchers, which included Yennier Cano, who is currently on the Major League roster, having a great year, as well as Cade Povich, who is, I believe, in Double-A Bowie right now. Might have moved up to Norfolk. Did he move up to Norfolk?
I think he's in Norfolk now, but he's also like one of our top pitching prospects.
Yeah, he's one of our top pitching prospects, doing great. And plus 2 other guys who I can't think of off the top of my head. This year, Minnesota then trades him at the trade deadline to Miami. Miami has him for about a month and it decides to DFA him or put him on waivers, whatever happened. And then the Orioles pick him back up. So effectively, Jack, the Orioles got those 4 pitching prospects, one of which again is already on the Major League roster, the other of which is in AAA and one of our best pitching prospects for free. And then on top of that, because of all the time the Jorge Lopez didn't play for the Orioles this past year or so, the Orioles saved $600,000 on Jorge Lopez's contract. That to me is a mind-blowing masterclass by Mike Elias. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, what else can you ask for, honestly?
And all the people that last year complained and whined and said, "Oh, why are they trading Jorge Lopez away?" Why? I laugh in their face now.
All right.
Not that Mike Elias knew this was going to happen, but it was a big deal.
Yeah. So the couple things I will say on Jorge Lopez, he was not good this year, but you got to remember, he wasn't good with the Twins last year either. As soon as he left Baltimore,
yes,
wasn't great. Came out this year.
He didn't want to go. He didn't want to go. By the way, he didn't want to leave Baltimore.
Yes, turns out this year he's got some anxiety problems. Awful. Glad that he was able to bounce back from it, but still wasn't great in Miami or Minnesota this year. Bring him back to Charm City. Let him get comfortable again. He's, pitching in still high leverage games, but maybe he'll be more comfortable with the same staff that was around him just last year, right? That he was so dominant on. I mean, with Baltimore in 2022, he had a 1.68 ERA.
I don't know if you watched his it wasn't a press conference, but the press went and asked him questions after the
Like
game. What do they
the
call that?
media scrum.
Yeah. He was smiling so much. He's so happy to be back in Baltimore. I think this is where his friends are. I think he really likes the staff here. And I also think about this, Jack. One of the big stories with Jorge Lopez last year was his son's health problems.
Mm-hmm.
Where are some of the best hospitals, not only in the United States, but the world?
Here?
Baltimore. And
Yeah.
so I think probably something that did not help with his anxiety issues is he's trying to make sure his son's getting the best health care he possibly can. And he gets moved away from the best hospitals in the world. I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
that helps.
obviously, that's impossible for us to tell if that's a factor or not. But it can't hurt to be closer to good.
No, it's gonna help your mental health no matter what in that
Yeah.
situation. Um, I love Jorge Lopez as a person. He's just seemingly like one of the kindest people on the face of the planet. I'm excited for him that he's back. I think and we're gonna get into other moves that happened this week, but the corresponding move for this, Jack, was we DFA'd Logan Gillespie. So you're
Darn.
telling me we got rid of Logan Gillespie and we got Jorge Lopez? I don't care that Jorge Lopez is having a down year. He's still way better than Logan Gillespie.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Lopez pitch over the weekend, and he pitched fine.
So I think this is a great move. We'll see what happens in the future. There's a bunch of questions about whether or not he can pitch in the offseason or in the postseason, excuse me. So there were people saying that, well, because he was acquired after September 1st, he is not eligible for the postseason. There's other people saying, well, there are different rules that exist when you put people on IL and things like that, so they might be able to find a loophole that gets him in the postseason. I don't know. All I know is at least for the next month, I feel like that's another piece that solidifies our bullpen.
Yeah, at the very least, he's going to help on the push to October.
And I think that's the biggest thing. I think Mike Elias has shown that his biggest thing is just get to October. Just get to October, and then anything can happen. Because once you get to October, you're just rolling the dice. And so I think this is a move to say, not only do I want to get to October, I want to give my team the best chance possible. I want to make sure I have that number one seed. Jorge Lopez can at least solidify your bullpen to help you get that number one seed. What happens come October, if he's on the roster or not, because of whatever rules exist, we'll see. But for right now, the biggest challenge facing the Orioles is win the division, get the number one seed. And I think Jorge Lopez can help him do that. A lot more than Logan Gillespie can.
So I'm just reading a little snippet of an article from The Athletic.
Okay.
And it says, for a player to be postseason eligible, he must be on a roster by September 1st. I can't tell if that's just like a headline that's like leading into a story about how he is eligible, but that's the little snippet I got because I don't pay for The Athletic to see the whole article.
Yeah. Those paywalls, man. Those paywalls are insane.
Yeah. So September 1st, speaking of it, came and went. Roster is expanded. The Orioles called up Colton Cowser and Crable for the expansion. Then, of course, Jorge Lopez was added. Aaron Hicks comes off the IL, 2 days later?
I think it was 2 days later, yeah.
Yeah, and Cowser sent back to Triple. But Austin Voth was DFA'd.
This is what I find interesting. So before we got on here, Jack, I went on to the Orioles 40-man, and I counted up all the players that are on the 40-man.
You count
And
that high?
I got all the way past my toes. So excluding the guys that are on the IL, because it's always weird when you look up 40-man rosters because they include the people that are on the IL and stuff like that. I counted 38, and it's possible I miscounted, but I think they have 38 guys on the 40-man right now.
Yeah, I would look at it on Fangraphs because sometimes that'll be slow to update.
That might be what it is. So, but yeah, either way, I don't think it's because we didn't get a corresponding moon for Voth. right?
The Orioles 40 man's at 39 right now.
39.
So there is
Is
still a
that
spot.
is that 40th spot for John Means? I would think it is.
Yeah, I feel like it probably is. Be the
I'd
easiest.
be willing to put money that it's there for John Means.
Mm-hmm.
What did you feel about the yo-yoing of Colton Cowser?
It burns his option.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the most or the biggest thing that sticks out to me. I don't know. I mean, it's tough, like especially when the rosters get expanded more. I'm sure that they told him coming into it that Hicks's recovery was going to end when it ended. And I mean, what
Right.
are you going to do? Not say, yeah, send me up there. So I think he probably knew. Like it still stinks that he hasn't gotten another shot. Maybe he'll be a little bit more comfortable this time around. But who knows? Maybe Hicks will come back healthy, and God forbid, he gets hurt again, then he'll get another shot. So
Yeah,
we'll
I
see.
mean it's one of those, I think, triple A's where Cowser needs to be right now anyways, just to work
Yeah,
on
but he
things.
always tears it up when he goes back down, man.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I think it kind of sucked for him that he got yo-yoed a little bit. I don't like when that happens to guys. I mean, we've been seeing
Yeah.
it happen to Vespi all year.
Mm-hmm.
Don't like it. But I think AAA is where he needs to be right now. We'll see what happens with Aaron Hicks moving forward. I hope Aaron Hicks starts to have a September like what his June was. I'm still curious, Jack. Do you know the date when players need to be on the 40 man to not be Rule 5 eligible? Because
It's
I'm
in
really looking
December.
at that Heston Kjerstad, and I'm getting worried. I mean, I know Michael
December.
Elias is aware of it, but I'm getting really worried. Like, when does he have to be on the 40 man by?
December.
Oh, by December. So it can
Yeah.
be playoffs are done, everything like that. Not that he's going to be on
Mm-hmm.
the playoff roster at this point, anyways, but it can be after the postseason they put him on the 40 man.
Correct.
All right. All right. Well, that relieves me a bit, Jack. I was getting some anxiety.
Yeah. So, and then I feel like thinking about roster space. Jackson Holiday gets the
Okay.
bump to triple.
Yeah, we gotta talk about this here because the Orioles made a bunch of moves, a bunch of minor league moves. Started off kind of like smoking, right?
Yeah.
Started off with announcement that Enrique Bradfield, this year's first round draft pick, as well as Mac Horvath and Matthew Etzel, were going from low A Delmarva to high A Aberdeen. Had a couple pitchers moved. Nolan Hoffman went from Double A to Triple A. Dylan Hyde, Trey McGraw went from High A to Double A. But then we got the news, Jack, that Jackson Holiday. Hard to believe that he's only 2 weeks out of his mother's womb, and he's already in Triple A.
Yeah.
I had to say that.
Yeah.
Everyone keeps going like, "Oh, this kid should be asking for a hall pass to go to the bathroom right now," and he's in double. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
it keeps
sure.
getting more and more ridiculous. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
And
mean, kid's 19 years old and he's one step away from the major leagues.
I think the craziest thing is that it wasn't in an effort to keep him playing. Like Bowie still had till the 17th in their regular season. So this was like, the people up top thought he was ready, which it kind of seems like he was. Every time we talk badly about him and like not developing quick enough to the point where he needs to be like continuously bumped up, he proves us wrong. He gets bumped up, and I will not comment anymore about Jackson Holiday staying in one level of the system.
And it's funny because when I went to that Mike Elias meet and greet, one of the questions was about Jackson Holiday, and Mike Elias went, "Yeah, I'm a little worried about him. I think he's only batting 373 right now across all levels." I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm really happy for him. I'm really excited. What's interesting to me, Jack, is everyone thought the number 1 overall draft pick last year was going to be Drew Jones.
Yeah.
And granted, Drew Jones has been dealing with some injuries and stuff like that, but he's still, I believe, at low A, and he's only batting like 145. Like, he's below the Mendoza line.
Yeah, I
By a
know
lot.
that he really hasn't got off to the start that the D-backs hoped that he would, but I think that's just kind of shows the volatility of young prospects.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the minors, he's batting 212, 307, 295, makes for a 602 OPS. He's only played 36 games.
I'm just really curious what the Orioles analytics department, what their scouting was looking at to get this so right. To sit there and be like, yo, we're not going to go for the hype that is Drew Jones. Everybody's talking about Drew Jones. We're not looking at the hype. We're looking at X, Y, or Z. And X,
Yeah.
Y, or Z says Jackson Holiday over Drew Jones. And the fact that it's already about to pay off for them is awesome. And my question for you, Jack, is do we see Jackson Holiday break camp as a Baltimore Oriole next year?
Like I said, I don't want to talk about it. Just wrong every time. But I think now that he's in triple, now he's got a legit shot.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Well, because he was only at Double A for what, a month and a half?
Yeah, if that.
So he's got about a month left with triple, right?
Yep, just
And
about.
and he'll have a playoffs with them, right? Norfolk's already in the playoffs. They won the first half.
Yes, they secured their spot months ago.
So he'll get some minor league playoff experience, which will be good for him as well. I'm really curious because on one hand, logically, I go, no, Michael Elias is still going to want to see him in AAA for a good bit to start the season next year. Like he'll come up next year, but I think like logically, oh yeah, he's not really going to make his debut until a couple months into the season. But at the same time, Jackson Holiday hasn't been doing anything that's logical. He's just been insane, and I think it makes Mike Elias's job this winter pretty important, looking at guys like Ramon Arias or who else you got in the infield there? Well, Adam Frazier's only on a 1-year deal, right?
Right.
So he's probably gone. Looking at Gunnar Henderson, is he going to be your shortstop or is he going to be your third baseman? I think it's pretty clear you move Gunnar over to third, and then Jackson Holiday is your shortstop of the future.
Yeah, or second base.
Same. Yeah, move Westberg over to third and Gunnar at short. Like it's got some interesting moves to move ahead with that I don't think Mike Elias was planning on making for another year or two. Right. And here it is. He's going to have to start making these decisions this offseason, I think, which is only good. It's only good things for the Orioles to have this young phenom. I mean, who's the last person to do something like this? Like Juan Soto, probably. Yep. He was in Double A for what, 2 weeks?
Yeah, something stupid. I mean, you think about guys that have done this: Soto, Harper, Griffey. That's what we could have.
Yeah, and you have him playing next to Gunnar Henderson.
Yeah,
that left side of the infield is just going to be bonkers.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, dude.
It's going to be so fun, and you still have Adley Rutschman behind the plate. Grayson Rodriguez and Kyle Bradish are starting to look like potential aces of the future.
Yeah,
this team's going to be good for a long time,
which
is really exciting.
Yeah,
really exciting,
no doubt. So looking ahead to tonight, got Grayson Rodriguez on the bump ski, like we alluded to earlier, against no idea who this guy is. Rosenberg? Sure.
Oh, I haven't heard of him.
Rosenberg. Obviously, the Orioles have never seen him, so there's nothing to go through there. And not a lot of people have seen Grayson Rodriguez except for really Shohei, and he was scratched. So we'll see a lot of new water to tread for on both sides. So I'm hoping that the Orioles can take care of business tonight. Honestly, take care of this whole series. Anaheim is in a dumpster fire right now. So yeah, again, beating inferior teams and when you need to. So
yeah, and I always worry a little bit about those West Coast games. Just traveling the West Coast all the time can be not easy, no matter
yeah,
who
but
you're playing. But
I'm glad that
you've
they're
already
already able to
spent the weekend in Arizona, which is only I think like an hour ahead of
Yeah,
California.
yeah,
So there's not much of a jet lag that you're dealing with at this point. I mean, look what happened a couple weeks ago when they were in San Diego and then they went to Oakland.
right.
They there was a lot of adjustment that happened against San Diego, but then they went to Oakland, took care of business, swept the A's. I'm hoping that similar outcome can happen here with the Angels. Like you said, they're in a tailspin.
Yeah.
It is a dumpster fire over there
Tickets
in
as
Los
cheap as
Angeles
three
for Anaheim.
dollars.
Tickets for $3.
Yeah, if you want to go hop on a bus right now to
Yeah, I was gonna say how
California.
quickly can a plane get me over there? Answer: not quick enough. Wow, imagine being in Los Angeles and being able to get professional sports for $3.
And I mean, like, some teams will kind of like hike the prices up when a better opponent comes to town. Guess
I
not.
think the Angels are just trying to get anybody to come right now.
Yeah, we'll pay
Because
you
if
to
you're an
come.
Angels fan and you haven't turned that cap from red to blue, you're probably going too soon.
Yeah, yeah. And then after ideally the Orioles take care of business against the Angels, they head up to Fenway Park for the weekend.
Yeah, taking on the Red Sox, who we have not seen since April, I believe, Jack.
Wow, that's
It's
crazy.
been a long time.
It definitely felt like a long time.
Yeah. Red Sox have been kind of up and down, holding steady. They're still not far out of the wild card, I don't believe.
4.5 games.
4.5 games, so they're kind of still a bubble team. Doesn't seem like they've done much to really, they kind of held steady at the trade deadline and stuff.
I
Not
mean,
going to
they're
be an
staying
easy
afloat.
series.
No, I think you can't really overlook this one at all. I think you got to treat this one like a playoff game
Yeah.
because they're fighting for a spot and they're not out of it at all. So I think you treat, and it's going to be a hostile environment too up in Fenway. So
Oh, absolutely. What do the Rays have this week? That's one thing that we didn't look up beforehand. Because that's my biggest thing with these is like never letting up on an opponent, because the Tampa Bay Rays are just not giving us any wiggle room for any mistakes. Let's see
So the
here.
Rays lost today to the Red Sox, and they have 2 more against the Red Sox, and then they have 4 at home against the Mariners.
Wow, so they actually have a pretty tough week.
Yeah, and then they go to Minnesota after that.
Who's also in a playoff spot? Could
Yeah,
be
so
some opportunities here for the Orioles.
and they lost the weekend series to the Guardians.
This could be huge. This could be huge. This again is why you cannot let up. The only thing I worry about with this Boston series, besides everything we already talked about, is what I just said about West Coast series. You're going to go from the West Coast, come back to the East Coast. I believe they have a travel day in between there. At least they should. And there's going to be some jet lag there.
They have off Thursday.
Okay. Off Thursday. I just hope everyone does what they need to do to take care of themselves, get some rest, everything like that, because that is a big series, I think, with what's going on over in Tampa Bay. This week is huge, because if we could come out of this week with a 4-game lead, to me,
I
Jack,
think
4-game lead versus 3-game lead seems like a mile difference, and I don't know why.
I also think that looking at a 5 or a 6 game lead after this week isn't out of the question.
It's not. I don't think it's out of the question. You're getting a little greedy right now.
I mean, think about it. We're playing the Angels, man. We're playing the Angels. The Rays are playing the Red Sox, who are playing fine, and then they play Seattle for 4. Like, Seattle is not an easy team to beat right now. The Orioles played one of the best series like of all year in Seattle just a couple of weeks ago. That felt like a playoff series for sure. So those are going to be some good games and a chance for the Orioles to really strike because they're playing the Angels, man. They're playing the Red Sox, both beatable teams.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I'm gonna knock on a bunch of wood here for because I don't like to upset the baseball gods.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, I would love for it to be 5 or 6 games. If it's 5 or 6 games, look out. I think 4 is a reasonable number. 5 slightly. I could see 5. I could see 5 games. 6 is getting a little greedy. I don't know if we're gonna get 6, but
yeah,
I really think it has to. You have to at least move up 1 game, at least. Like I said, I don't know what it is, but saying you're 3 games ahead versus 4 games ahead, it just seems like a mile difference between those 2 numbers. And the only thing I think that is making me think that is because we have that one last series against Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Next week. So when we come back, we play the Cardinals, and then we play a 4-game series. It's a 4-game series that we play against Tampa Bay, and that's the last one of the season. If you go into that with a 4-game lead, worst case scenario, you come out even. Worst case scenario.
Already looking forward to that series at home against the Rays, man. Like, I'm already thinking about what the stadium's going to be like.
Well, especially you have Friday night, you have Adam Jones night.
Yeah.
That's going to be sold out.
Yeah.
I have tickets for Wednesday, Jack. I'm going Monday and Tuesday against the Cardinals. And then I have tickets for Wednesday, but I was thinking, I was like, I might exchange those because I'm going Monday, Tuesday because I have friends in town. Wednesday, I was like, I might exchange that for another one of the Rays games because that's a huge series. That's a huge series.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, like, we got to pack the stadium for that series. That stadium should be absolutely filled. It should be loud. It should be really, really loud. Playoff environment. It needs to be a playoff environment for that series against the Rays.
Yes. The Orioles are now at 100% chance to make the playoffs. Only
is it officially 100%? They haven't reached the magic number yet to clinch playoffs, though, right?
According to Fangraphs, they have 100% chance.
That can't be right. It's got to be like 99.9.
Jimmy, I don't know what to tell you here, man. I'm looking at 100.0.
But they haven't clinched yet.
Jimmy, are you going to argue with the Fangraphs?
I'm going to argue with the Fangraphs just because it's not official. Once they officially clinch a playoff spot, then it would be 100%. But who knows? Something weird could happen. The team could suddenly lose out the season, and you could have the Red Sox win out, and all of a sudden the Orioles are out of the playoff spot. I don't know. I'm just saying. It can't. Math doesn't math that way. It's got to be like 99.99999%. It's probably 99.99999%. They just round it up.
All right.
Fangraphs is counting their chickens before they hatch. Okay.
Whatever, man.
I'll wait for the clinched notice to say yes, the Orioles have a 100% chance to make the playoffs.
Tell us who won the cards this week, Jim.
So once again, for anyone that's a first-time listener or anyone who has forgotten, we are doing a weekly card giveaway. All you have to do is when we tweet out the link for this week's episode, you just like the tweet, retweet, and make sure you're following UPod Street on Twitter, and you will be automatically entered for a chance to win a free pack of baseball cards. This week's winner is at mboren15, aka Michael Clark Borenstein. So congratulations, Michael. A free pack of baseball cards will be heading your way soon.
Congratulations. Woo!
Woohoo. Well, everybody, I hope that we have given you a little bit of entertainment as you get ready for some late night baseball. Make sure you have your coffee going for tonight. Game's going to start at 9:38. Brady is wearing his UPod Street merch to class tomorrow. Shout out, Brady. If you would like to be like Brady, and get your own UPod Street merch, go to www.birdlandsports.com/UPod Street. There you'll be able to find UPod Street merchandise as well as all other sorts of Orioles merchandise, as well as Orioles podcast merchandise. And at checkout, use code UPod Street and you'll get 10% taken off your order. All right. So shout out Brady. Repping us at Shepherd U.
Go Rams.
Go Rams.
Have a good night, everybody.
Right. Have a good night, everybody. And let's go O's. You've been listening to UPod Street, an Orioles podcast by fans for fans. UPod Street is an official Birdland Sports affiliate. Directly support the pod by purchasing UPod Street or other Orioles merchandise using the link birdlandsports.com/UPod Street. Get 10% off your order when you use the code UPod Street. Follow us on Twitter at UPod Street and at JackBain20. UPod Street is also on Facebook and YouTube, and you can listen to the show on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify. On whatever platform you listen, please subscribe, rate the pod, and leave a review. If you leave a review, we may even read it on the show. We'll see you next week, and of course, let's go O's.